Hashtag You're It. I'm Amanda Malcolm, and you're listening to You're It Girl, a podcast focused on you and what propels you. Because that past, it does not define you. Your time is now, and you're it, girl. Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda Malcolm, and welcome back to You're It, Girl. Today's guest is Claire Spencer. Claire, introduce yourself. Let everybody know who you are. She's been on the podcast before, but she is a repeat guest. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody. It's really nice to be here, Amanda. I am many things. I actually am a director of community for a transformational coaching and retreats business. I am a mother, and I'm Amanda's roommate.
Yes, it's basically like we've gone back to college, okay? So let's explain a little bit how this all began. It's a very interesting story. And now that we've talked about it with other women, we've had kind of, I think, some revelations. And now being adults and having, each of us has a daughter. So I have a daughter, Kennedy, as some of you may know. She's 9. And Claire's daughter, Maya, is also 9. They're besties. And Claire and I we became friends how long ago? At your daughter's second birthday.
My daughter's second birthday. So more than 7 years ago.
7 years ago. It's actually a really interesting story how we met. I think we shared it once upon a time on the podcast. It's through your ex-in-laws.
Yes.
I was showing a house. They were looking at the house. They were showing me pictures of their granddaughter, and they said, "You must meet our daughter-in-law, Claire." And so I went to the little preschool. We all met. We became very good friends. She divorced before I did. Then I divorced. We've helped each other really through a lot.
I worked for Amanda.
Things.
After I got divorced,
yes.
Amanda hired me to be an assistant, and then I worked in her real estate agency, and then I quit.
So we are friends, mom friends. We've worked together as professionals, and now we're roommates.
Yes. Yeah, and it's really great, actually.
It's really great. So I'll tell you how this happened. Do you want to share some of the story? You can share whatever, because I know none of it is confidential, because you know kind of the reason for why I started living with you.
Why don't you tell the story? Because I feel like you were really driving for a change, and I was like, that sounds actually really nice.
And I was so surprised to hear you say that. So here's what happened. So I don't know if I've done an episode on this yet. Oh, yes, I did. I did a depression episode in December. So if you haven't listened to that episode, some of this story is on there. I had a guest, Cameron Stale, that talked about depression in her episode. And so there's a little bit of this story in there. So I was living downtown in this beautiful house, and I was going through a depression. I was really, really sad. And I had reached out to you one day, and you had said, why don't you could come over and stay a couple days. And so I'm at your house a couple days with my daughter and dog, and the cat wasn't there yet. I came with a lot of baggage, bags, a child,
animals,
a dog, and a cat.
Yeah.
And so I was at your house for a few nights, and you were about to leave town, and you said, Amanda, you can stay longer if you want.
This is helpful because I remember it differently, but this
Really?
is also true. Yeah. I just remember you were really tapped out. You were going through all these things. It was a tumultuous summer. You launched the podcast. You're in a high demand career. And I think you said to me, you were like, I am in the car 4 hours a day.
I did.
And I am going to lose my mind.
Thank you for reminding me of this. Actually,
That's
that
really
had a lot to do with it.
You loved your house, but you were commuting, and you were under-resourced emotionally, and between feeling depressed and having to do everything for work.
It was making it worse. The commute piece of it, the driving.
Yeah, you're like, my house is beautiful, but I am so exhausted. And I was leaving town, and my home is much more convenient, and you probably saved 2 or 3 hours with the car.
Oh my gosh.
Which is 2 or 3 hours of time that you got back. And so that was part of it.
I would come home and I was just a zombie, and I'm trying to facilitate my child. And it was like I was just going through the motions, and my body was moving, but my mind was just like blank and depleted. I'd be sitting doing homework and not even remembering what we were talking about. I'd be making dinner and just like putting it on the counter and I was so tired. And then I was with you for just a couple days and it somehow just felt slightly better. And then one day we were going for a walk and you said, actually, I'm kind of in a similar, well, actually explain what you said, because we were going for this walk. And
so I actually don't remember this walk, but I know what I would have said.
Yes. What did you say?
And I believe also that there was, I don't know if this is before or after the walk or if this is important to the story, but I believe part of it was that you said that you really had to figure out a way to get out of the house, even though you loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, I don't know what to do. I have to rent it. I have to sell it, but I can't anymore.
I can't do it anymore.
And what we were talking about specifically is, I'm imagining that what you're remembering is something along the lines of me saying, it is so much better to not be alone.
You did say that.
And so when you are here, it is not a burden. At least for me, especially now having you, I've had really lovely people live with me. I've had really difficult people stay for a long time. And if I get along with somebody, I have so much more energy in my life if I am not driving my entire life by myself. It sounds strange, but just being able to be like, good morning, Amanda. Did you make the coffee? Amanda will take out the trash and I'll make breakfast.
So
that
great.
Little bit of interaction helps me to not get, I call it, sitting in my own soup, because it was just me doing the childcare, doing the pickup, cooking dinner for myself and somebody who may or may not like it and probably will not like it just because she wants attention because I'm a little tired and she can tell I'm not giving her enough attention. Mm-hmm. That part is really hard. And so when there's other people around, especially like you and your daughter, it disrupts these sort of patterns that we get into. And so for me, it's really helpful because I'm more likely to want to make dinner or leave the house because I work from home. So I don't remember the exact conversation, but it was probably something of like, I really love it when you're around. And if this is something that would work for you, you're more than welcome to stay, because it's a benefit. It's a net benefit to me, for sure.
It was very similar to that. And I was so delighted to hear you say that, because I was worried with all of this. I mean, coming to your house, living in somebody else's space, bringing my child. I remember saying to you, okay, but Claire, like, I have a lot of, like, I come with a lot of stuff. Like, it's not only my child, but it's also my dog and my cat and my things. So it seems like it would be a burden. And you said, it's not a burden. It will actually help me too.
And by the way, one of the things I told her, I was like, if you move in, that means I'm going to be forced to get rid of a lot of things.
You did
and
say that.
I've gotten
We've
rid
been
of,
doing this.
We've been doing this. My whole back porch is cleared. I got rid of like 10 bags of clothes that were never going to fit. So it did push the needle, but at least for me in a positive way of like, I want to change my life in these ways. I want to have more spaciousness. And now it's like, oh, I'm going to make space for somebody who makes my life better. So it wasn't this burden for me. It was the drive to get me to do things that I otherwise didn't really have the internal drive. If it's just me in my house, I will take care of the doom pile tomorrow or in 3 weeks. But because I'm with other people, I'm like, oh, I'll take care of that. I don't want that to be in your way. So I actually benefit.
And there's a really great benefit. Actually, before we go into that, you wrote this, this little insert of an article to the New York.
This is kind of why we started this idea
the New York Times.
Podcast.
And this was the exact reason for the podcast, because you said to me, we were both working on something, and you said, I submitted something to the New York Times based on our living situation. And so I'm going to read it. It was actually published in the New York Times, which is very, very cool. So here's what it says. It says, to the editor, a two-parent household is, in my experience, a superior one, but only if the partnership makes life easier and better for both. My parenting partner is my best friend. I'm 44 years old, 6 years divorced, and a mother. I have diligently tried to date. Dates are readily available, but partnership has eluded me. My daughter and I recently got roommates, my dear friend and her daughter. Living together has made an extraordinary, surprising, positive impact on our lives. Having another mother as a partner in parenting has given me all the benefits of a marriage with none of the trials. Our shared household is more peaceful, easy, and cooperative than my marriage ever was. We have autonomy, separate finances, free to date and travel as desired or needed. We naturally divide responsibilities. I'll make breakfast, she'll empty the dishwasher. There's no nagging, no list making, no sexual resentment. best of all, my daughter gets to experience all the benefits of having a sibling, learning to share, to work out disagreements, to work together as a family to care for our home and for one another. I'm rested and happy. I'm excelling at work, and I'm free to date whomever I wish. It may not be the married white picket fence future I had imagined, but the pearls of laughter coming from the kids' room every morning give me confidence that this version is as good or better. Claire Spencer.
Oh.
You're such a beautiful writer. It does make me cry. I'm very emotional reading it. But this is the premise of why we wanted to talk about this on the episode, because as parents, especially single parents, I know that and we talked about this before. Sometimes I feel like as a single parent, I don't have it as hard as like what a true single mom has to endure sometimes, because I have a supportive ex-husband. He has Kennedy 3 days a week. And so I'm always like, oh, I'm not really a single mom. But I've been corrected many times that this is not the case. You're still a single mom if you are a mother who is not married and you are divorced and you're raising your kid at any point by yourself.
Yeah.
You're a single mom.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah.
And depleting sometimes.
Well,
go ahead.
It's relentless. It's not that it's not joyful. It's relentless. Like play the same song for 6 weeks in a row at full blast. Even if you like, I always say this, like everybody likes filet mignon, but not for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for an entire year. It's amazing. It's beautiful and it's relentless, especially when you're doing it by yourself. And especially when you're doing it by yourself. And we were talking about this on the car ride here, is culturally, it is extremely challenging to be. I think single mothers and single fathers have their own different versions of it, but it's very difficult to be a family. It's very difficult to be a parent. It is extraordinarily difficult to be a parent raising your child alone, even if that aloneness is part-time.
Because the aloneness is, even talking about reading through some of these things and the division of duties, it is so incredibly amazing to be living with somebody where those duties they just naturally ebb and flow. When you say, oh, I make breakfast and I empty the dishwasher, like when the trash is full, someone just takes it out. Sometimes someone does the laundry, sometimes the other person is full. It's like there's always something that the other person is doing, and no one's mad, no one's resentful. It's almost like, oh my gosh, thank goodness, like the dishwasher's emptied. Like now I can make this food.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, she went and got donuts for the kids. Like now I can finish this laundry. It's so delightful.
And the interesting thing is that even if I know for a fact that you take out the trash more than me, and I'm really grateful because
you make food more than me, and I'm so grateful. You're such a great chef.
That's like, even if I do something more often than you, the fact that I don't have to do it all by myself and these other things sort of naturally get done is that much less.
It's less
that I have to do. It's incredibly helpful.
And because there's less that you have to do, it's almost like every time I'm like, I feel, like a sense of not even relief. I wouldn't say it's relief. It's like, oh, that's so great. I feel so much more energetic because now I'm like, that's not a burden anymore that I must do. Yeah. It's just done. How lovely.
It is. It's a little addictive. It's like, I don't need my morning coffee. If I look at the recycling is taken out, I'm like, oh, somebody else did that?
It's
the magical roommate fairy.
I'm so
excited.
Yeah. I'm literally left every time being like, oh my gosh, I feel so great about that. And I think you brought up an important point in that article that when you're married, there's a weird tension. There's a weird tension. And there does become some sexual resentment sometimes because of those tasks. Living with another woman who's a mother, there's no resentment in that way. You always feel like you've got an extra helper who understands exactly what you're thinking in your mind. And you never have to say what you need done or what's going to be helpful to you. They just know.
They know. And I would say that in my experience, that's unique and it's not uncommon, but it's also not common. And so I don't know if it's because we have similar parenting styles or that sort of
Maybe
thing.
so.
We are both very proactive, kind of nurturing. You can say what you want about yourself, but maybe a little bit recovering codependent. Like I am a doer. I take care of things. I take care of people. So often in that, I would neglect myself. And so when you do something like take out the recycling, I am like, she remembered me and she cares. Because that's what I do all the time, sort of without thinking. And God bless the children. They are learning to be grateful, but they don't really know. Yeah. So that also is in some ways like, to really feel, at least for me, because there's so much work to do as a mother and just working in my life, having somebody help with that particular like tasky, repetitive thing makes me feel very seen.
Mm-hmm.
I will take that over flowers any day.
Same.
Because that actually, sometimes I look at flowers and I'm like, this is so nice, but it's like another thing that I now have to throw away.
And they get smelly. And
these flowers are beautiful.
Looking at all those flowers we have on our table. Right now, I'm like, these vases are going to be really a pain to wash. Who's going to get to them first?
But that's it. It's like the way that we help each other is very meaningful and it's very impactful to me. Like it does make a significant difference to my daily experience.
And because of that, it's significantly changed my day-to-day energy level.
Oh, for sure. Same.
Mm-hmm. Even sometimes when the energy level is lower from a long day at work, one of the things that has been most delightful to me is when you are in that zombie state and you kind of look at each other and you go, you can go to bed. I'll put the girls to bed.
We do that
a lot. It's a lot. This is the thing too.
You're like, sorry, I had to go to bed last night. I'm like,
it's okay.
And this is that other piece and I don't know why it's so different. So I'm not going to speak to every marriage, but I really have my whole life really wanted to, like, it's important to me to feel like I'm part of a team and to feel like we're in it together and that times can be hard, but I will have your back and you have my back. And so with you guys living here has given me this like relational experience that I really crave, which is like, of course it's going to suck and we're going to have a hard day. And neither one of us, it's not like, well, Amanda brings in the money and so we can't let her lose sleep, or, like mom was working all day. And so I'm like, there's not this feeling of somebody's more important. And so the other person sucks it up more often. It's, hey, I'm so tired. I really need help. And I'm like, all right, team, tag me in. I'm tired too, but I'm a little less tired than you are. So I got this. No big deal. And together we do a lot better.
I wonder why that is so common in that dynamic. Is that a male-female dynamic, do you think?
I actually think that it's a relational dynamic with people often in romance. If we want to get into psychology.
Yeah,
in romance, we're often like attracted towards our parents. And I don't mean that in a good way. If we have like a really helpful dad role model, we're like, oh, this is like what a father looks like. So you're attracted. If you have an absentee father who was never helpful, you just assume that that's how men are going to be. So you don't even notice a guy who's like slightly less absentee. Like he actually comes home, but he only watches sports and ignores you the whole day. You're like, oh, but at least he's home. And then after a while, that doesn't become enough. So I think that there's a lot that comes up in relationships, feelings of worthiness, feeling like making assumptions that somebody not texting you back means something. And then you're not going to make them dinner because they didn't text you after work. Like we get really twisted up in romance. So I think it is harder to untangle because it brings up, I think in a good way, if you can learn how to manage it and really see it as like an experiment to discover what's inside you. But it really can bring up a lot in terms of our self-esteem, our sense of value, our sense of belonging in the world. So I think it is more challenging.
I think, I was talking about this last night. I was out with two women and we were actually talking about the podcast and we were talking about relationship dynamics. And we said, this is so fascinating because our friendships with women are so different than the relationships that we choose when we're choosing a romantic partner as a male, and how the depth of our relationships with our fellow females are based off of a certain set of characteristics. But it's like we're choosing the opposite end of it when we're choosing a partner.
That's really, that's interesting. I feel really lucky in that I think a lot through work, but I really have like wonderful male friends who I feel like I can rely on. And so I have for sure different relationships and different relational needs for female friends. And I have like such intense appreciation and love for my male friends. And I think that there's a freedom for me to be able to love someone in that platonic way that I may not actually like them that much if I was dating them. But because I'm not dating or expecting attention for validation, like there's all these expectations and sort of anxieties and fears that come up. Because I don't need them to text me back in time.
Right.
For me to know that we're still friends. Whereas like if I didn't hear back from my boyfriend for 2.5 months because he went through a really busy period at work, I'd be kind of freaking annoyed. Right. But I like, there is an expectation in these friendships for what it means to be friends. There's a lot more permissiveness in terms of letting somebody be exactly who they are, because I have much fewer needs from my friends than I do from my romantic partners. And I don't mean needs like demands. I mean, almost like, it almost feels like there really is a childlike part inside of me that when there's romance involved,
it's a different level of expectation of what you
or
receive
just, and it's almost
for fulfillment.
Yeah, for me, I think it's desire. It's like that going along with that romantic, erotic, sexual desire is also desire for a lot more. So I want them to be sexy. I want to feel sexy. I want them to want me. I want to want them. And then I want all of these wonderful things about friendship. And I don't know always if the rules of friendship are great for exactly the rules of romance. It can be a little tricky. But I definitely relate differently. And I'm very sad I'm not a lesbian. I would marry you so fast.
I think you know what's really funny about us living together is we used to say all the time, like, oh my gosh, if we were living together, like if we were lesbians, like we'd be the perfect partner, because everything that you loved, just how we coexist together in the household is just, it ebbs and flows so well that there's never a time that I've been like, oh my gosh, I'm so annoyed by Claire. Like, just so you know. I mean, if you've been annoyed with me, you can, I mean, it's fine. You can say it. My dog has peed on our furniture. Your furniture. It's yours.
Well, here's the thing though, too, is I think our long history has made this very easy. I've worked with you. I've seen you under stressful situations.
We know each other well.
We've been through each other's divorce. So I actually know how you react when you're upset, when you're tired, and when you're fatigued. And it's something that I'm very compatible with, right? Like, you're cheerful, you're happy to help, you always go above and beyond. I mean, it's like there's really not a lot to not like. And there are some people who are really lovely. I am very sensitive to moods. And so it's challenging for me to live with somebody who's extremely moody, extremely anxious. And so you, even in your depression, you were like, it's really not funny, but I feel terrible. You know, like that was like we never have had big arguments. You've never taken any sort of you've never like had an argument with your ex-husband and then been mean to me because you're in a bad mood. So at least for me, these are qualities that I would look for in a partner, but it makes this partnership really great. It makes like it works well in business. I've worked for very moody bosses, and I might not have done anything wrong, but if my boss is in a cranky mood and is taking it out on me, that's much harder for my sensitivity level. And so I've also learned to at least try to surround myself with people who are can do, or if they are not can do, they say, I am in the worst mood. Please don't take anything personally today. And that I feel like we're really good at communicating also. You'll just say, Claire, I am so tired. I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm going to take care of all my responsibilities, but I really just can't. And those are the days when I look at your face and I look at the girls and I say, you guys, it's time for bed. And if I hear you talking in 10 minutes. The monsters are going to come out because that woman loves you so much and she needs to be able to rest. We care about her.
Mm-hmm. And this isn't to say that we haven't had difficult conversations, because with the girls living together, I mean, because as we're talking about all this positive stuff, I'm thinking we've had to have difficult conversations, and our ex-spouses weren't necessarily on board or loving the idea of this situation. I think, first of all, they thought, one, it was completely insane.
Yes.
Yes. And two, I don't know that they loved that we were going to be living together with the girls, because the girls they're besties, and they are both on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as like outgoing and confident and like extra. They're towards the top.
Yeah. Well, and so they are bubbly and silly. Maya just admires Kennedy so much. She's like just a little bit older, so she's just a little bit cooler. And we've had times where my daughter is a little bit of an instigator. And
Kennedy will follow her, though, because she thinks this is going to be so fun.
It's like my daughter gets this little crazy look in her eye. She gets an idea and she's like, let's paint our entire bodies with all of this neon paint that's going to stain us, and that's going to turn into, it's acrylic paint that's going to turn into like plastic acrylic. So they will have this beautiful idea. They'll come running, laughing hysterically. There's like acrylic paint on the doors. They're crying because we're hosing them off and the acrylic paint has dried and it's stuck in their leg hairs. Like that, my daughter is the one who thinks that is going to be so fun and like a brilliant idea.
And they're painting each other.
And they're butt naked. The artists. And it's just... Yeah, so that is also the energy that they can bring. And when the two of them got together, we've had moments in the past where I am a little bit more relaxed. I think it's good to be a little bit crazy if you can keep it under control.
I agree with you.
They definitely don't get together and like.
No, they've gotten into a little bit of trouble. They've gotten into some trouble, and we had to work together because now we're living together. So we're living together. The girls got into trouble. And so now we were faced with this, okay, what do we do? Do we tell the dads? Well, we kind of knew we were going to have to tell the dads.
Yeah.
So then we're faced with this situation where now the four of us are really parenting together. And initially the dads were kind of like, I don't really know if I want to be parenting together.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to parent my kid, and your ex-husband was like, I want to parent our kid. And we're like, well, we live together. We're in the same household. So now we kind of have to
the girls
parent
need
all
some,
together.
Yeah, we do. Like they had consequences. They were swearing too much. They
It was really funny.
Jumped the fence and broke into the neighbor's house.
Stole some popsicles.
Yeah. So things that would have been really funny in the 80s.
It sounds crazy, but they knew the neighbor well.
Yes.
And it's a long story.
Very, very Dennis the Menace, where like in 1980, maybe it was cute and funny. And in 2020 in Phoenix, Arizona, it's real sketchy.
It's sketchy.
They had some big lessons they had to learn, and they had to face the same consequences is the thing, is for them to experience it. They had to feel it together. It couldn't be one set of rules for Maya and one set of rules for Kennedy, because that creates chaos and disruption in our household.
Correct. And eventually the dads got on board with that. And the most beautiful thing about it is when that happened, and we can't let them ever listen to this episode until they're like much older, because we made it a big deal, right? We made it a super big deal.
We made them feel terrible.
We made them feel terrible. They had to go apologize to the neighbor. They had to clean his windows. He was in on it. It was a big thing because we wanted it to be a very important lesson.
Yeah.
But the most beautiful thing about it, they were scared.
Yeah.
And they said, at least I'm with my best friend when I go over and apologize. At least I'm not alone when I do this. And if I want it, and if I were to do this with anybody, I would want it to be with her.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so scared, and this is so terrible, and I feel bad, but at least I get it to do it with my best friend. It was really sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they learned the valuable lesson together.
Yeah.
And we had some rules, and no iPads allowed for a very long time.
Very long time.
And
still the worst 2 or 3 months of their life.
It was.
Apparently.
It was best for us. It was the best.
It was great.
I love when they didn't have those things.
Yeah.
And now we've really developed this. It's been how many months now?
October, November, December, January. Almost 5.
So almost 5 months. And now we're really in this groove.
Yeah.
Really, it's like.
It's become very easy. Their girls still have a few sticky points, but
it's actually good for them.
It is good for them. And there was, chaos. There's a little chaos initially in the moving, and the girls work as a team. Like your daughter the other night was like, let's do a Sunday reset. And so the 2 kids reset their room and made it look nice for the Monday, for the rest of the week. And they had this little buddy system. And if I told my daughter to do a Sunday reset, coming from me, she'd be like, oh, Mom,
I don't want to.
But because it was her little bestie, they were like, I was like, I love that. And Kennedy's like, me too. And I was like, okay.
And we love it too, because now your room is clean.
Now your room is clean.
Thank you. And from a parent perspective, because there's someone helping, and probably because they're really not siblings, but they're not siblings, but they're acting and living as siblings and they're friends. So it's similar to our dynamic where it's like, it's not, and sometimes they do fight and argue about this, but for the most part, it's like, I'm your friend, so I'm helping you. You're my friend, so I'm helping you. And together, we're going to make this nice. Together, we're going to clean this up.
Yeah.
And from a parent perspective, there's so much less pressure and so much less mommy monster time where you're like trying to get them to actually listen or do something because they just
they're
do
a team
together. Just
like you and I are a team. I have yet to get this relational dynamic with my daughter where I'm training her, but she's still, maybe 9's too old, but she's still young. And so I'm like, Maya, we need to be a team and do these things together. And she'll be like, I'm a kid. I don't want to. But when it's her and your daughter, they are a little team. Mm-hmm. And it's really lovely. And I love the thing that you said too. They are more invested. I have been a sibling, but I have not had siblings. I have not had sibling children. Like Maya really cares so much about her friendship with Kennedy. One of the times when they got in trouble, their biggest fear is that they wouldn't be able to be together anymore.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking about they do get into fights and they do get frustrated, but they are working out how to do that. And it's high stakes because this is their best friend. So they're really motivated to work it out.
Which is teaching them a lot psychologically.
Psychologically. But there was this big fight over scooters. One scooter was faster than the other scooter. And I believe Kennedy demanded to have a particular scooter that went slower. And then she was so angry that she chose the slower scooter that she could almost not talk. And Maya was trying to talk to her about it. And Kennedy was furious. And they were just riling each other up. So they went into separate rooms and started to pass notes to each other. Like they took a time out and they solved it. And Maya was like saying, like, I don't remember, but I don't remember what my kid, but I specifically remember you saying that Kennedy sent Maya a note saying, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at myself because I chose the slow scooter and I just need time to cool off. And Maya was like, and then Maya's note back was like, okay, take the time to cool off.
I know, it could make me cry. Yeah. Their conflict resolution was so great.
Yes.
And I think afterwards, you and I even said to her, gosh, we can take note of this from their notes and how they handled this and de-escalated that.
They were able to communicate. They also knew when to take a break because it wasn't helping. They found a way to communicate through that without abandoning each other. It was really impressive.
It's really impressive. And sometimes when they are in argument mode, it's hard for me to not interject. And I'm working on that. You do such an extraordinary job of letting them work it out. Sometimes I'll interject, and they actually said to me, like twice in a row with me trying to interject, that they were fine and they didn't need me in there to help them work through it. And I said, well, it sounds like you guys are really upset. And they said, we are. And we're going to figure it out.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, fair. I will step away.
And I still also remember, I don't remember what the argument was about, but Maya was upset for some reason. And they were arguing. And Kennedy came out and she's just looked at me. She was, I need help. And then I did go in and help. So not only are they learning how to work things out, but they know when they get to a point where they can't figure it out themselves, they come to us and do ask for help. And I wish I had that.
It's really extraordinary, actually. I kind of forgot about that moment. We're bringing all these things up, and it's actually, I feel like we should almost write them down for later to be able to refer to them in a nice little journal at what they're learning.
Yeah.
What they're teaching each other.
Yeah. And
that we didn't expect from this. This was not, when we decided that we were going to live together for this short time period.
A little experiment.
It was a little experiment. This was not how we expected it to evolve. And I think when we eventually get to the point where we don't live together anymore, I'm going to look back on this and be so grateful for what they have gained from it.
Absolutely.
Especially for other relationships with their friends. And as they get older, they don't have a sibling. So they're not practicing this a lot of times.
Especially in their peer group. They do get to practice at school, but it's different. The level of investment that Maya has in keeping Kennedy as a friend is really high.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Maya started a new school this year, and the first couple of weeks she was really upset, and she said, I don't have any real friends. And I was like, well, what's a real friend? And she goes, well, Kennedy just knows me. And
Kennedy says the same about Maya.
So it was this, it's this really incredible thing where they have had this lifetime friendship. They've known each other since they were 2. And I also got to tell Maya, like, look, you've had so much time with Kennedy. You can grow your other friendships. None of those friendships have 7 years, but you have this opportunity now. Look how amazing your friendship is with Kennedy. And you can make more of those types of people. But you're not going to have it instantly. And if you stick it out and really stay with some people, they can be a friend like Kennedy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We were talking when we first moved in. I think we had lived together for maybe 6 weeks. And you had some friends come over and we were talking about us moving in together. And I remember saying, I know it's so weird, but somehow this thing just kind of works. And every female in the room, a lot, and I think all of them are single, yes? For the most part, only one is.
You mean when we had the clothing party?
Yes. Because the level
actually several of them were married.
Were they? Because several of them,
several of them have been single.
They understood. Because my initial mindset going in was like, this is a really weird thing to try to explain to people, and it sounds so odd. And everybody was like, I understand, and that sounds so great. Because, we're adults, adult women. I'm 38. You're 44. We're divorced. There's this whole independent thing. We have our own houses. We do this ourselves. And then now you're almost what are you doing? Are you reverting back? What are you, in college or something?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, this is my passion, is just relationships and community. And I think that also I'm benefiting from my quote unquote middle age or being older, where I have to really think about what brings me joy and happiness. And I think, at least I know a lot of younger people, and just culture tells us in general that these things or these circumstances or this level of accomplishment will make us happier. And really somebody who will put the dishes away from the dishwasher's clean if I load it at night, and who sometimes picks up my daughter from school, that makes me happy. Not the Land Rover and not the house. It's having help and feeling connected and having deep friendships and letting my daughter grow up in an interrelated way that she benefits from is so much better to me than appearing a specific way or having certain things. And in some ways, I feel like I may look like I'm going backwards, but I feel like I'm going forwards because I'm choosing what's important to me. And I don't really care if it looks weird.
That's what I've learned most from this experience, is really the drive and the work hard to get the house and have the things. And at the end of the day, you're and this is rather isolating and lonely. And what's actually much greater is living with my best friend and her daughter. And yeah, I don't really.
And putting the girls together early and watching shows about psychopathy.
Yes, which we're going to go do tonight. As soon as we get home, we're going to go and we're going to watch crime shows. No, we're going to watch about the psychopaths. Yeah. This was actually an interesting conversation we had the other day too.
So this is circling way back further in the conversation, but one of the things we also talked about is just how challenging it is to be a parent. There's so much pressure on parents to have children who behave, to raise children well, and their culture now is very isolating. A lot of people work remotely. It feels weird to go knock on your neighbor's door. Sometimes you don't like your neighbors. We're not, at least in the city where we live, we're not in this like warm, generous community. There are like formal mom groups and there's activities, but that easy neighborhood experience that I have is not there. Who would notice if I didn't show up for 2 or 3 days? It doesn't feel like that exists.
It's true.
And we work so much. Like we have a job, we pay all the bills, we take care of ourselves, we take care of these little Tasmanian devil pet animal childrens that we have. And we're doing a lot of work to make sure that society thrives in like 100 years so that there are doctors and lawyers and nurses and electricians, like all of those people, when we're old, will be the children that are being raised right now. But it's really expensive to get a babysitter. It is. Somebody asked me a couple of years ago, they're like, why aren't women out like you out more often? I was like, well, if I want to go a date, it costs me like $60 out the door just to get a sitter and to drive to meet you for dinner. It's quite a lot.
And then I worked all day also and did pick up, and like then I had to get ready and like it was a thing, like, and then I skipped the gym to go do this, and it's kind of I don't know if that was worth it, to meet you,
especially when I'm doing all of the trash taking out by myself. But I don't have to go into all of the ways that it's challenging to be, because I think married couples, I think anybody with children really experiences this, at least in this culture, especially in bigger cities. But I have been watching these shows about psychopaths. And one of them was a show called Crazy But Not Insane. And it's about this psychiatrist, a Yale psychiatrist called, I'm going to murder her name, is Dorothy Otnow Lewis. And she has spent years studying like, I'm going to have to look at my phone.
Yeah, look at it.
Yes. She specializes in the study of violent individuals and people with dissociative identity disorder, which is basically multiple personality disorder. And after she began her career looking at like very violent youth and what were the circumstances or what was the trends, really trying to understand what made children violent, what things did they have in common, including brain scans. And her conclusion after working with violent criminals, violent children, is that human beings are actually good, and that the violent criminals, like the really obscene cases of criminal violence and psychopathy, all of them had brain damage to specific parts of their brain related to like the ability to control your urges, impulse control, and a lot of that brain damage was more than likely inflicted upon them in childhood. So they had serious emotional trauma and also physical abuse that actually damaged their brain, that created these violent serial killers and murderers. And that, for me, at least as a mother, really made me reflect on the way that we support parents in our culture, because she was like, her hypothesis in this show was that we shouldn't worry as much about punishing psychopaths because they literally do not have the capacity. They have been created in such a way that like they're willing to murder multiple people. They are not going to be deterred by severe punishment. So we will continue to have psychopaths if we don't actually figure out how they are made and how to stop that creation. And if you look at poverty in parenting, lack of psychological care, generational trauma work, all of the different ways that children can be subject to abuse because they don't have other resources, or the family doesn't have resources and the parents are completely tapped out and they don't have coping skills. If we really don't want psychopaths in our society, we have to take care of children. And if we want children to be taken care of, we need to support the parents. So that's a long-winded way to say like,
thank you for supporting me in my parenting efforts.
Me. Yeah,
so
my
that way our
daughter's
children are not
crazy.
psychopaths.
Yeah, it's really significant too. And I think I'm incredibly privileged and grateful that I do have the resources that I have. And I still feel like losing my mind. I may have shared this in the other episode, but I do get tired. It's relentless. And I will tell my daughter, I'm like, you have 4 minutes to get to bed. And then the momster is coming out. The momster's inside of me. She's tired and she's hungry. And if I don't feed her and get her some rest, she will come out of her cave and yell. And I am not a yeller.
You are not a yeller.
It's fine. Some people that works. It's like my last resort. It scares me to yell. And the only times I have yelled, I've told my daughter, I'm like, I am sorry. That's not what I intended. I don't have any resources. I was really tired. I was really hungry and I couldn't get those things. And so I have to take care of myself so that you don't experience me in that state, because that's my last resort. But it will happen if I can't figure out ways so that I can like be resourced enough to take care of you well.
I always love the way that you explain that. And living with another mom, there's so many moments where you reflect, because sometimes you're doing the parenting. Sometimes I'm doing the parenting. And what's so beautiful about that is there's a lot of things that I've picked up from, it's so beautiful because you're not often, as parents and as moms, we get together and sometimes we share these stories, but you don't see in the moment, the day-to-day, what's actually transpiring and how somebody else is really communicating with their child all the time. And there's so many things that I pick up from you where I think, gosh, I really like how she says that. I really like how she does that. And so it helps me as a parent, as a mother, because I'm learning from someone else the things that I like, because I see how this is different for the child and how they're understanding or how they respond to it. Because otherwise, we learned our parenting from our parents. And like, nothing against my parents, but a lot of what I learned from my parents is not great parenting methods.
They learned their
and you just revert
parenting.
back to it, you know?
Well, and I always think about this too. My parents learned their parenting skills from their parents.
Yes.
Which means that the parenting skills that I picked up from my parents are from like people who were born in 1912.
Yes.
So I do read and I do take things, but my default core is
you
the way I was
to that.
raised.
And what's interesting about you mentioning the reading in the books, there's so much of this. And I know like our generation is very focused on this and books about how we can be better parents. Yeah. And there's tons of them. It's endless. But in the moment, you do revert back. So when you're living with somebody else who's also a mother, it's almost like it's a live experiment and experience.
Yeah.
Which is so different than you just listening to a self-help book and jotting down the things or taking the notes and then trying to implement them in real time.
It actually reminds me a lot of like just in business too, is it's totally the difference between somebody who's like, I've got a really good business idea and somebody who goes out and tries to make the business happen. Like the experience level is profound. And it's so different to start a business and to say, oh, I read a business book, and then go to the SBA and get help with all of the things you have to do, and then actually make your first sale. You're with somebody who's doing those first steps with you in real time. There is a huge gap between what's on the page and the understanding you need to actually be able to execute it. And that's true for so many things. There are very few people who can read a book about horseback riding and become an expert horseback rider on their first try. Right. It's just how human beings work. And so it is like a fast track to picking up things in the moment when they are useful and seeing how they're used and like how it affects our children.
Yes.
Mostly positively.
So all in all.
Yeah. It's really
all in
all.
Mostly positive. So I wanted to thank you for even coming up with the idea and for being the one to say, all right, let's do this. Move in with me.
You know what's really funny is I thought that you came up with the idea.
Really? I thought you came up with the idea.
I swear there's a text from you that says, Claire, I have to sell my house and John's place is rented.
I don't know who came up with the idea.
Yeah, no. But you said I have to get out of my house and the cottage is rented at John's. Could I stay with you if I can't find another place to live? And I said, please.
I
absolutely.
did. And then it turned into this thing.
And then it turned into this thing. But I was thinking to myself too, like the most meaningful thing to me when I was divorcing was I had one friend who was like, this is my door code, whatever you need. Libby, our really good friend who we need to get on the podcast.
Yes.
She was like, you can come stay in the spare bedroom. And I know how meaningful it was to me when friends made that offer. And it was equally meaningful to me that I had a friend who was like, I really need help. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. Can I count on you? I might not even need you, but can I count on you? And I was like, yes, you can.
Thank you for being someone I can count on.
Yes.
I love you so very much.
I love you so much. And like, that's really, truly too, like something that I think our daughters can learn the most from this is like I said earlier, like ask for help when you need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hard for me.
It's hard for me too, but I'm learning to do a better job. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for coming on the show to talk about this. We covered so many topics. I feel like this was such a loaded episode. So if anybody wants to reach out to us, you can find Claire at
clairespencer.com. I'm actually doing a Twitter writing class. So I'm trying to be on there more often at 5 Claire Spencer on X. Spelled like 2 mall stores, Claire's and Spencer's. So Claire Spencer, shouldn't be too hard. Thanks for having me.
And I'll put them in the links below so that you can find her and you know where to find me. Thank you everyone for listening. That's Your It Girl.